It's a matter of concern. I mean, it's obviously serious because, as you've seen, the Prime Minister himself chaired a meeting to review the security situation in J&K. So I think that the government has realized that it's a serious matter. In the last 76 hours or whatever you say, it's become nasty business again. And I don't think the Prime Minister said anything about normalcy now. They were talking of normalcy about 15 days ago. But the question is that this keeps cropping up, and terror is not going to go away easily. This is a harsh revival from the other side, and the DG is right. He also mentioned a figure of 70 or 80 terrorists in J&K, which again is a significant number. You know, even at the worst of times in the early 90s, we used to talk of about 200, 220 terrorists being all over the state. But now 70, 80 is a very significant number. And therefore, I think we need to take cognizance of this. So if the DG is aware of 70, 80 terrorists, then why have we not been able to find or round up anyone?
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. There have been 4 terror incidents in the last 5 days in the Jammu area. Earlier this year, there were 3 or 4 more in Poonch and Rajouri, and there were a few last year as well. Indeed, according to the Hindu newspaper, there have been at least 26 terror attacks in the Jammu division since mid-2021. So today we ask, how serious is the situation? Are we witnessing the return of terror in Jammu? Is the ISI behind this? And how should the government of India respond? Joining me to answer these questions is the former head of R&AW, Amarjit Singh Dulat. Mr. Dulat, we've seen 4 terrorist attacks within a spate of 76 hours in the Jammu area, 3 or 4 more earlier this year, and a handful last year. And as the Hindu says, by some counts, there have been 26 terror attacks at least in the Jammu area since mid-2021. So let me ask you, how worrying is the situation?
Yeah, it's a matter of concern. I mean, it's obviously serious because, as you've seen, the Prime Minister himself chaired a meeting to review the security situation in J&K. So I think that the government has realized that it's a serious matter. The really bad attack took place at Riasi, where 9 people were killed in that bus, and they were pilgrims. So I think, quite often there are these terrorist outfits that claim responsibility and things. But that is one attack they wouldn't like to claim responsibility for because it was a nasty attack. Civilians were killed, children were killed, and the bus rolled down into the river or wherever it was. It was nasty business. And yes, it has become, it looks serious in Jammu. And I think the government needs to take cognizance of it. Now, the Prime Minister has said that we should use every security response possible.
Now, in contrast to what has happened, the official position of the government of India is that the situation in Kashmir is normal. They're actually calling it Naya Kashmir. But now, in contradiction to what our government is saying, is terror back as a major concern?
You see, terror has always been there. As I say, in the last 76 hours or whatever you say, it's become nasty business again. And I don't think the Prime Minister said anything about normalcy now. They were talking of normalcy about 15 days ago. But the question is that this keeps cropping up, and terror is not going to go away easily. So we need a sort of a two-pronged way of dealing with it. And
I'll come to the way of dealing with it. I'll come to how we deal with it in a moment's time. Let's first concentrate on what has happened and try and understand the implications of what's happened. Normally, Home Minister Amit Shah doesn't miss an opportunity to speak out. But now, even though according to the Hindu, and I'm talking of today's Hindu, the 14th of June, the police are warning that there could be suicide attacks in the next 48 hours. Despite that, the Home Minister is silent. How do you read his silence?
This is, I think, the impact of the coalition dharma, because he's been the main target in this cabinet formation. It's not just a BJP government now, it's a coalition government, it's an NDA government. And as you would have seen, the main target has been Amit Shah. So I think he's keeping a little quiet, and that's why normally this meeting yesterday would have been taken by the Home Minister, but it was taken by the Prime Minister himself, and then he spoke to the Home Minister. So that's how it is. I think he's just staying back for the time being.
In other words, the Home Minister is keeping a deliberate low profile.
That's right. That's right.
Now, terror attacks seem to be happening in the Jammu area, either in the Doda Punch region of the part or in Katwa, Reasi, and Rajouri. Do you get the feeling that the focus of terror has shifted from the valley where we've been used to it to Jammu?
We've talked about this before, Mr. Thapar. It keeps shifting, it keeps shifting according to the convenience of the terrorists. And in any case, at this time of the year, this is the peak of the tourist season. So we don't Pakistan would not want terrorist attacks in Kashmir or in Srinagar. So therefore, if it happens in Riasi or Katwa or Doda, it's far away from Srinagar. And this could still frighten away tourists even from Srinagar, because these are very nasty, serious attacks. So it keeps shifting, and it has shifted for a while. And it had gone down, as we discussed earlier, to Punch and Rajouri, and now they're bringing it up more closer to Jammu. I mean, I read somewhere that there were even reports of terrorists walking around in Jammu city.
That is particularly worrying. Terrorists walking around in Jammu city, I presume, identified by the fact that they have weapons.
No, I think it's just that there is a scare, and there have been huge protests in Jammu about these attacks. And what is the government doing? And that people need more security. Now they've rounded up about 50 people on suspicion, and immediately Omar Abdullah has said that you are just harassing people. You don't know what's happening.
R.R. Swain, the Director General of Police in Jammu and Kashmir, has told the Hindustan Times, that was on the 13th of June, that this spate of terror attacks is being coordinated from across the border in Pakistan. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. I mean, this is a harsh revival from the other side. And the DG is right. He also mentioned a figure of 70 or 80 terrorists in J&K, which again is a significant number. Even at the worst of times in the early 90s, we used to talk of about 200, 220 terrorists being all over the state. But now 70, 80 is a very significant number. And therefore, I think we need to take cognizance of this. So if the DG is aware of 70, 80 terrorists, then why have we not been able to find or round up any of them?
Absolutely. As you said, 70, 80 terrorists who've crossed over from the other side is a very significant number. How come they remain undetected? How is it that they are able to hide themselves for so long and so effectively?
Well, this happens. I don't blame the J&K police or whatever it is. It happens from time to time. And obviously, the local people, support them. Now, there was a time, let's go to Punch and Rajouri for a moment. There was a time when the Gujars were very anti-Pakistan, very anti-terror, and pro-Indian. I think even that is changing there. The Gujars are not totally being available as informers, let's say. So there is a change in the attitude of people.
Why is Gujar sympathy changing? Why is it shifting away from being pro-India to being neutral or siding slightly with the terrorists? Why has that happened?
There's an issue there between the Gujars and the Pahadis. Now, the government at the center recently recognized gave scheduled tribe status to the Pahadis. And that didn't go down well with the Gujars because they thought they were exclusive. Now, because to get Pahadi votes, the BJP recognized the Pahadis also. So I think there is a little rift there going on.
Tell
and
me
the
something.
Gujars are very happy about it. And that is why, what's his name, Mia Altaf, the Gujar leader of the National Conference from Anantnag, won very comfortably against Mehbooba.
Tell me something, Mr. Dulat. How are these terrorists crossing over in such large numbers that the Director General of Police believes there could be 70 or 80 from Pakistan on our side of the line? The ceasefire on the line of control is holding commendably well, and normally it is breaches of the ceasefire which provide protection when terrorists cross over. But since that ceasefire is holding, how are they coming across without being detected?
No, it's not always because of the ceasefire. These fellows have various routes of entering J&K, and they use different routes, and the 70 or 80 would not come in together. They would come in batches of 5, 6, whatever it is. And then either they operate in different areas or they get together and operate. That's how it happens. But one of the routes is through Poonch and Rajouri. I mentioned Surancoat many times. And there are those gullies or alleys thickly forested from which it's not very difficult to cross over. Although it's in the army's control, but still people do manage to cross over.
Does the geography in Surancoat give them protection?
Surancoat is a sort of bowl, and in a sense, it's a launching pad or a transit station from to which terrorists from across come. They spend a night or two there, and then they climb up the Pir Panjal. And then where they would go, nobody knows.
Now, if we have 70 to 80 Pakistani terrorists on our side of the line, which is what Mr. Swain, the Director General of Police, has said to the Hindustan Times, and newspaper reports suggest that maybe 3 or 4 have been killed, that means there are still something like 65, 70 alive terrorists potentially threatening us.
Oh, yeah, sure. But they'll be, not concentrated in one particular place. When Mr. Swain says there are 70 or 80, he's talking about 70 or 80 all over the state. And I don't think anybody is sure where these 70 or 80 are. These are figures collated. It's data which is collected, And this data also varies from organization to organization. The J&K would have one figure, the CRPF would have another figure, the army would have a third figure, and the intelligence bureau would have a fourth figure. But 70 or 80, fair enough, I would go with the J&K police figure. Yeah.
But tell me, how worrying is it that there could be anywhere between 65 and 80 live terrorists spread across Jammu and Kashmir, potentially threatening us?
Oh, of course it's worrisome, no doubt about it. Absolutely.
So it is seriously worrisome.
It is seriously worrisome.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Now, let's talk for a moment about the ISI, which presumably has sent these 65 to 80 terrorists across the border. What do you think might be the ISI's intention? What message are they sending the Indian government by doing this?
I could give you a couple of answers, but it would be all speculative. It's very difficult to say what their intention is. One, of course, is that the ISI or Pakistan has come under very heavy criticism, both at home and in Kashmir, for doing nothing ever since the abrogation of Article 370. Now, the question is, why at this point of time, why have they chosen this time? Now, and it's also, I think we need to keep note that it is coinciding with the formation of Mr. Modi's third government, which is a coalition government. So it could be a lot of things. And also,
Okay, just a moment. Can you spell out what is the possible connection with the formation of Mr. Modi's third government? Spell that out for the audience.
Yeah, now, it's well known that the Sharif brothers are very soft on India, and they keep saying that we want good relations with India, we want peace, we want to move forward with India. And, sometimes the army or the ISI and the political government are not on the same page. So I think at this point of time, possibly the army is not amused with what is happening on both sides.
You mentioned the Sharif brothers. On Monday, Nawaz Sharif sent a message to Narendra Modi congratulating him on becoming Prime Minister for the third time. And in that message, he said, and I'm quoting him, "Let us replace hate with hope and seize the opportunity to shape the destiny of 2 billion people of South Asia." That was recognized on the Indian side as a very warm message. Do you fear that the Pakistan Army or the ISI is in fundamental disagreement with Nawaz Sharif's sentiments?
Well, there's no fundamental disagreement. The question which would come up from time to time, I'm just imagining, I'm putting myself in the shoes of, say, the DGISM, that you guys want to move forward with India. We have no issue with that. But there's never any response from the Indian side. So what are you trying to do? And at the same time, we get criticized at home and also in Kashmir that you guys don't mean anything for us. And I've been saying this for a long time, that actually the Pakistan story in Kashmir is over. But if we keep inviting Pakistan back, then these things will happen.
Can you explain this to me? If the Pakistan Army's concern is that we want better relations with India, we're not in disagreement over that, but the Indians don't ever seem to respond, then why would the Pakistan Army or the ISI fuel terror on the Indian side? Is that to make sure that the Indians don't respond, which is something they anywhere complaining about the lack of response? So I'm not sure I fully understand.
As I said, normally when Nawaz Sharif sends this message, the Sharif brothers, the government in Pakistan, and the army would be on the same page. The problem arises, the army gets restless or says that, what the hell is going on? I mean, you want good relations, you send out these messages of peace and whatever it is, and harmony and getting together. And there's no response from the Indian side. Modi ji used to say, "Dil ki duri hame khatam karni chahiye." The same thing which Nawaz Sharif has
But can I interrupt? If the
Yeah.
Pakistan Army's concern is that there's no response from the Indian side,
Yeah.
by fueling terror, they're ensuring there will be no response at all. Is this really working in their interest?
Maybe not immediately, But, the point is that at some point of time, the ISI's concern would be that we should not be totally forgotten in Kashmir. We are still around, and we can do what we want to do when we want to do it.
So that is what you believe the ISI is actually saying to the Indian government. Don't think we have stopped mattering and counting in Kashmir. We still count.
That's right. Exactly.
So this is like a reminder to the Indian government, don't forget we're still there.
Yeah, exactly. Because as I've been saying repeatedly, the Pakistan story in Kashmir is over. And we should not help in inviting them back into the valley or into the state.
To what extent is the spate of terror that we've seen also an attempt to puncture any euphoria on the Indian side after the turnout in Baramulla and Anantnag Rajouri had crossed 50%? To what extent are the Pakistanis deliberately trying to puncture any euphoria that got built up on the Indian side?
I don't think, when we speculate, we could think of that, but I don't think it's election related at all. Because I think the Pakistanis understand, or the army would understand, the ISI would understand, that what Kashmir desperately needs is an election, a revival of the political and democratic process. So I don't think it's related to that or related to election. In fact, these terror attacks, if they continue, could, ensure that there is no election in September.
How worried are you about that? Because the Election Commission has indicated without confirming that elections will be held. Everyone's assumed they'll be held around September, October. That's just 3 months away. Could this outbreak of terror, if it continues, scupper plans to hold the state elections, particularly if the terror disturbs and disrupts the Amarnath Yatra, which starts, I believe, in just 2 weeks' time, 15 days, in fact?
That's right. It's, I think, on the 29th of June or so, at the end of the month, we have the yatra. And if the yatra gets attacked, then there would be real trouble. So let's hope for the best. And I certainly believe that elections must be held, come what may. And I think back to 1996, when it was Prime Minister Narasimha Rao. Of course, elections took place in Devi Gowda's time. But it was Narasimha Rao's idea that elections had to be held, come what may. And when elections were held and we had a national conference government back in power, it checkmated terrorism to a large extent. So when you don't have elections and you carry on like this, then we will have terrorism from time to time. The other point, if I might add, is the one which Farooq Abdullah keeps making. And he said so again yesterday, that we need to engage with Pakistan. And he's repeatedly said this, unless we engage with Pakistan, terror is not going to stop. Now, you could say that how can you engage with Pakistan when the ISI is responsible for all these terrorist attacks? So maybe this is not the best time, but we should think of engagement and we should engage. Let me put it like that.
How do you convince the Modi government, a government that seems to be almost allergic in its attitude to Pakistan, that the time requires engagement with the Pakistanis, particularly at a time when ISI is stepping up terror on our side of the border and possibly threatening the state elections, which are due in 3 months' time? How do you convince Mr. Modi that actually engagement with Pakistan is the way forward?
No, I'm nobody to convince anybody, Mr. Thapar.
No, I'm not saying you personally. What's the argument that can convince him?
I think the way forward is to have elections, to revive the democratic process. J&K needs a government of its own. And even good, bad, ugly, whatever form of government they have, it will be better than this long extended president's rule. It doesn't help the people of the state. They have nowhere to go, nowhere to complain, nowhere to talk to anyone. There's a governor who's from UP. Most of the bureaucrats are from outside, some of them from South India, who've never been to Kashmir. Most of the district superintendents of police are non-Kashmiris, non-Muslims. So it troubles the Kashmiri. And they wouldn't mind any kind of government, but they would want a government of their own, somebody they could, reach out to.
So you're talking about two sorts of different political steps the government in Delhi needs to take. First, elections in Kashmir, restoration of rule from Srinagar by elected representatives of the Kashmiri people. That's the first. And the second is also start talking to Pakistan. You're saying both must happen.
And there's a third thing as well, very, very necessary. When it will happen, Delhi has to decide. But restoration of statehood, to which we are committed in Parliament.
So
keeps saying that he will not contest the election. He will not contest an election to a union territory. So yesterday, I saw somewhere that Dr. Farooq was saying he's trying to convince Omar that it doesn't matter what it is. You have to contest elections for the sake of the people of Kashmir. But I think this restoration of statehood is a key issue in Kashmir, because 370 is gone, done, dusted, and most people are reconciled to it. But the only hope left is restoration of statehood.
Tell me this. Can the combination of those three measures, restoration of statehood, election of a state government, talking to Pakistan, can the combination of the three be a solution to the terror?
Yeah, I think there would be great steps forward, certainly. Certainly. You see, the point is that we've always said that, there is a certain position we've taken that talks and terror, or terror and talks don't go together. I agree. Okay, we've said that long enough. And we have also said for a long time that there is complete normalcy in Kashmir. So when there was complete normalcy in Kashmir, why were we not talking to Pakistan? Now you say there is terror, so we won't talk to Pakistan. So when will you talk to Pakistan?
I get your point. One last question.
Yes,
Do you believe that the Nawaz Sharif family represents the best party in Pakistan for India to talk to? I mentioned that not just because of the warm message Nawaz Sharif sent on Monday to Narendra Modi. Just a few days before that, he talked about how Pakistan had violated the 1999 Lahore Declaration, which was considered a very important admission by him. And then in April, his daughter, Mariam Sharif, the chief minister of Pakistan's Punjab province, made a very warm speech in Punjabi to visiting Sikh pilgrims, saying, we must not fight with each other, neighbors must not fight, and we must open the doors of friendship. So do you think the Sharif family represents the best Pakistan party that we should talk to?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not the most representative of Pakistan. I think there Imran scores over all of them. But what we have in our favor right now, you have the Sharifs and you also have the Bhuttos on the same side. And this combination does count in Pakistan. It's a good time to talk to Pakistan. This is the sort of combination we prefer that talking to. In Kashmir, the thinking is slightly different, and I don't want to go into that. But from our point of view, this is the best time, the best people to talk to. And I'm sure we are talking to them, but it's not becoming obvious. It's not becoming public. I think somewhere along the line soon, it should be made public.
Mr. Dulat, thank you very much for making time for me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.